There was a sudden flash. The killer broke out in a cold sweat and opened his eyes wide. The next second, his partner, who had been mocking the main character, was destroyed by an explosion. He was blown away from the guy by the blow. No one else was affected. Ash looked in front of him at the bloody enemy. The killer stared blankly at the corpse and did not understand what this something that looked like white light was. A man in sneakers stepped onto the field. One of the men noticed this. He turned around and pointed his finger at the source of the danger. The killers looked at the new character, who had an incredible aura. This man sparkled with lightning. The killers did not dare to approach him. He stood confidently, dressed in modern clothes, with his arms folded across his chest. The killer frowned and sweated because he did not know who it was or what he was wearing. This man, smiling, lowered his hands. The man could not stand it, drew his sword and attacked him, at the same time asking who he was. The boy in front of him did not move. He continued to smile. There was another flash. The attacking assassin was scattered to pieces in front of his surviving comrades. One of the two remaining was shocked when he felt a splash of his partner's blood flying at him. The boy in front of them began to shine with lightning even more intensely. The hooded men did not understand what it was and how their enemy disappeared so instantly, leaving behind a strong gust of wind. One of them assumed that it was the lightning step skill, but he could not believe it. He realized that in an instant, everything around him disappeared and became transparent like water. The next moment, his boss was killed, and the only living assassin screamed when he saw it. The man tried to understand what kind of light he was seeing. He thought with horror that it was the light of the strength of a fighter whose skills had reached the highest level. The killer once again paid attention to this light and wondered why such a great fighter was helping this boy. He held the weapon with both hands and trembled. The hooded man looked at Ash, who had already lost a lot of blood, and decided that he could not be saved, which meant that they had accomplished their mission. He dashed from the spot in an attempt to hide and retreat. The killer jumped into the air in the opposite direction from the enemies. The guy with lightning pointed his hand at him. The man immediately seemed to burst and dropped his weapon. The prince watched this. He smiled and said again that it was funny. Then he slowly closed his eyes. The guy who killed all the enemies was surprised that his ancestor was smiling even in death. The prince opened his eyes again, hearing about the ancestor. He wondered who this man was and what he was talking about. The protagonist saw everything as if in a fog. His eyes were closing, so he could not understand who was standing in front of him. The prince felt as if his body was growing cold. Ash was breathing heavily, looking at the sky. He believed that this was death. The guy in front of him looked at his wristwatch, realized that he had already been found and cursed. He pulled out a device from behind his back and admitted that he wanted to come earlier and give him instructions on how to use it. The man looked at the prince lying on the ground and decided that he needed to hurry before he died. He was about to stick the syringe into Ash, who could only watch his actions with his eyes. The guy then injected the contents of the syringe into his ancestor's chest and noticed that he even felt sick. He raised his hand with the medical instrument, smiled and said that he was done. The man in modern clothes leaned over to the bleeding ancestor with the intention of telling him something. He wished Ash good luck and hinted that he also wanted to get something good from the prince. The guy stood up to his full height and hid his hands in his pockets. He loudly explained that this nanomachine was the latest development, so it would not be difficult to operate it, and again wished him luck in studying it.